What's up, just if you're in the house, okay, I'm just kicking in my car right now. I got a few minutes that I can talk to you. Anyway, I want to talk about, of course, another one of my free your mind things about education and things like that. I, you wonder why children don't enjoy education as much as they enjoy games, or they don't like to study as much as they like to practice on games or whatever. The problem, I really believe, is that a lot of children do not, or haven't been told, or don't understand that when they are studying, first of all, they're learning about themselves. Okay, basically that's it. The word education, from a reference book or a dictionary, that I think it was a dictionary I read a long time ago, probably when I was in the military and Air Force Base. It was this big, huge dictionary in the library. And educate means, it's a Latin word for to bring out. So when you're getting educated, you just bring it out. That's what is in you. Okay. Education is okay. Let's talk about English and language and things like that. But education is, it's a beautiful thing. It's fun. It's exciting. But if you don't know what it is, or don't take the time to understand what exactly you're doing, then, or someone doesn't tell you the big picture, then it might take a while before you really start to understand it. So I'm going to explain it real quick as I can. Mathematics is nothing more than everything you see written on paper. If you can you might want to describe a house, right, or some shape. You say, oh, I saw a square. Okay, and you got this image of the square, but your friend doesn't. So your friend is thinking, okay, how big is it? How small is it? It's vague. It's just a square. Okay, fine, just square, whatever. I guess it's not important since they didn't give any dimensions. Okay, so dimensions would be like 3 inches times 5 inches or whatever. So when you're doing math, all it is the things that you see written on paper, and that's it. And you have to understand how to do math, so you can pretty much, it's basically just for trading, pretty much, buying things, purchasing things and stuff like that. If you want to build something, there is an order. There is an order that you must know. The difficult thing about mathematics is that you have these names, and these people create these, or they understand the equations to do things, and they have to name them, and sometimes you just can't name something. So I guess these people are just using their names. It's the Ralph Dunk GS350 JPN formula, and you're like, what's their GS350 JPN formula? And then you kind of find out that it's something like the number of if the number of subjects equals to the number of verbs, then the subject plus the verb is a sentence. Okay, so that's me. So I'm calling it the GS350 JPN formula, the Ralph Duncan's formula, whatever, for a sentence, right? So the natural thing of this is that you have these names, and it's really kind of difficult. So they will use their own names. So when you're doing mathematics, like I've said before, math is just adding and subtracting. But when you're doing mathematics, you're just using numbers, and you're not using units. So when you start using units and things like that, then you start to see the picture. And that's what math is. It's just a picture. It's just just some shape or some object that someone sees. They put it on paper and they give it to you. And if you understand, what they're writing, then you'll see the exact same picture. There's no guessing, like in my other video about insulting. Somebody insults you and they have an image, and they say something to you, and then you have an image. But you can only get angry if that image that they have of you is the same image as you have. Because if both of the images are different, then basically you're getting mad at your own image that you created of yourself, and not exactly them. Now, I can understand they're trying to insult you and things like that, but only an insult is just something that you you subject yourself or you agree to, and that's pretty much it. Unless I said, it's physically threatening and stuff like that. So when you're doing mathematics, you have to understand that also mathematics is also a language that can be converted into all languages on this earth. For instance, English and French or whatever. So in English, you might have a blue square that's 3 inches by 5 inches. So you say the blue, of course, there are spectrums and stuff, and they got their formulas how you can do that and write this stuff out and stuff. But let's just say you just say blue just for the fun of it, But there are, like I said, if you know the spectrums or how, the different shades and all that stuff and how to write it out, you can write that out 3 by whatever, and somebody look at me, oh, okay, blue box. Especially like if you write it out in a computer language and stuff like that, or binary form, things like that. So when you're studying, you have to understand that all you're doing is just learning ways to pretty much talk about objects. That's it. So let's talk a little bit about grammar. When a lot of people read English, a lot of people really don't understand. So they got the subjects, the verb, and then you got the objects, and then you got the what is the thing called, adjectives and adverbs and stuff like that. So in a sentence, you have a subject, then you have a verb, and then you have, let's say, a noun phrase. Okay, a noun phrase is you have an article, and it could be definite or indefinite. And then you have an adjective, an adverb, then an adjective, then a noun. Well, I won't talk the how to use the adjective. I mean the indefinite. The articles. You should already know that. If you don't, it's just if the noun is countable, then you have to choose between a and n. And if the first letter has a vowel sound, I, A, E, O, U, or something similar to that, then you use and. If it doesn't, then you don't use and. The only difference between a and the is a is when it's not special for you, and the is when it's special. And that's it. They got all these rules, but that's basically what it is. Okay. Then you have an adverb. A lot of people probably don't really understand what it is. They probably know, but they're not really realizing it. An adverb is just an emotion. That's all. Very and things like that, softly. Those are just emotions. So when you're reading and you get to that part, you have like a soft. And so what they're doing is, when you're in English, they're preparing you emotionally. So the first word, if they're going to add in there, it's going to be an emotional conception or idea or whatever that they want you to get into. And then the next is going to be a description or a decoration. So what I mean by a description is big, decoration green, and so you're excited over this green, whatever, and then they give you this object, and the object is basically just it's a noun, but the noun is just a name for what a mathematical equation. So let's say you see a car. Right? Okay, well, you call it a car, and that's why you describe it. But when you look at a car, you see circles and triangles and squares and curves and blah 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 this, and then you got the engines, and you got the horsepower, and you got the speed and the acceleration and the this and that. And when you really look at a car, the label of it is simple, but when you start breaking it down, it's like really gets more intense and things like that. So basically, when you're reading English, all you're doing is just reading someone else's viewpoint of how they interpret some object that they see. Okay, and that's it. So an object or the part, the predicate without the verb. Oh, I can't have it without a verb, but the noun phrase, which all it is just a article and a noun. But then some nouns you don't need an article, but you can always use the for every noun. So it's just the noun, and it's from an article. At least the, for sure, you can use it. and then to whatever the object is, and everything else in between is it's just a picture of this object, and the object is just decorated, and it's first is decorated, and then it's color, and then you get it's like backwards basically. Really, it should be like the noun, then it's big and it's nice, but the way the English is kind of backwards and stuff. So that's all you're doing. So when you're reading and you're reading all these things, you're just reading, some mathematical phrase that's just used in words, and you're not using the numbers. So it's like the word is the same thing as equal, times, times. It's just the copy and duplicate or whatever and stuff like that. Then when you start about the subjects, well, the whole thing is every adjective, every adverb, every noun can be a subject. Softly is the way things should go, and things like that. So you can make all of those nouns or whatever, and or soft is the way to go, or whatever, but I'm just saying the word soft, softly sounds so romantic or whatever, so you can change all these things and stuff like that. So when you're doing English, all you're doing is just reading someone else's point of view, someone else's explanation, and that's pretty much all they're doing. I mean, when people are talking, all they're doing is giving you pretty much explaining things, especially if you're just listening and stuff, right? So that's all English is. Now, when you're studying science and everything, it's exactly the same thing. It really is. Okay, and then you just got three kinds of vowels: action verbs, be verb, and modal verbs: can, may, must, shall, and will, and that's it. And then they're past tense. So it's not really that difficult. The only thing that's difficult, like I read on my Facebook, is that the white, mostly I would say white, because I don't know about the Asians, but I know white families, professional families, the language they use in their jobs, they use it at home. So I guess they said, well, I had a tough time learning this, so let me tell my kids this so they can learn it at a young age. So when they get into high school and when they get into college, they already know these words. They can, when they're reading these words, they don't have to go look in the dictionary, because they use it from a young age thanks to their parents. A lot of these kids should really thank their parents. But in the black neighborhoods, the parents don't do that. And I'm not even going to say it's because they don't have professional jobs, because there are a whole bunch of who do. But it's like a black, and I could be a little stereotypic, but I've really haven't heard it too much. Going into a black neighborhood, you're in a black home, and you don't hear these professional words, and these other things like that. It's nigga this, nigga that, and F you, and blah, blah, mother this and mother that, and you can go to hell, whatever, And so these kids growing up, and that's all they're learning, from the parents. That's the only education they get, other than you better study. Go ahead and study. Why don't you like studying? And, I'm not going to say all the parents do that, because I know there are some parents who really take time and really dedicate themselves to their children and stuff like that. But I'm thinking for the reason this big gap is, the only reason they had this big gap is that, okay, because these kids, these professional parents are using their language at home. And like I said, the language that they're using at home is the same language they use at work, and is beneficial. The language that they use is all descriptive. So, I wrote one of my friends in Canada. I told him that he's in college and he's want to meet some girl from this other country and blah, blah, blah. And he's in college and she's older, and pretty much I told him, said, listen, this girl is going to school you, and you'll probably end up dropping out of school. You're not ready for this. Fall in love with your education, and he understood. Fall in love with your education. Basically, you can fall in love with education if you understand that education, or the subjects that you are studying, is nothing more than objects. And you have the opportunity, you teach your English so you can decorate the object, so you can give it some type of emotional feeling, so you can make it big or small, and so that you can describe it in a language that you choose. And you're only going to be able to express it in a wonderful experience, experiencing whatever feeling with the words that you know. And if you don't have a large vocabulary, lexicon, or whatever, then your description is going to be limited, and that's it. Because there are some people who likes extravagant, instead of large or big, or or some people like enormous other than huge or whatever. It does. I mean, I'm just popping these words because I didn't practice to do this. So all I'm saying is that when you go to school and you start seeing, when you're studying, you're not studying words. You're studying parts of something that's already there, and it's called objects. And then things that we haven't discovered, you're able to create those objects based on the hints that things come together, things separate. You got things that are hot, things that are cold, and then those break down, and whatever, the forces and the pressures and all of these things, and you're going about them without understanding that these are parts of a whole unit, or a whole unit that's there or that you can create. But it's an image, and you can fall in love with that image, and you can fall in love with studying. And that's what I mean by falling in love with education. Is you create this, you look at this image, and let's say if you look at a square that's blue, okay, you might not be impressed by it, okay, but if you call it a dress, and then it's a blue dress, but actually it's just like a parallelogram, and I mean parabolas, like this and like this, and got all these curves and stuff, and you could get really descriptive and say, that dress is really da 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 this and that, and I know it sounds strange because you don't understand the language, but once you start to understand the language, then it becomes fun. It becomes exciting, because then you're able to express yourself with a language or a system that's you're able to, how can I say, get emotional with. So it's like you look at a woman and you get almost, you don't even know nothing about her, or a guy, you don't even know nothing about him. But you can do the same thing with language, because you can understand the language. So when you're going to school and you guys are getting bored and tired, it's only because you're not seeing the big picture, or the small picture. So when you go to school, you have to understand the vocabulary, because the person who wrote that book is expressing that idea, which is basically it's a cult. How can I say? We say an idea, but it's bounded. It's something that that's there, that's tangible. There's some things that are intangible, but they're using it in describing it in words that they want to use, and it's up to you to understand the meaning of the word. So that you have these dictionaries, and use a dictionary, and it'll explain it there. But if sometimes you get some words where the meaning of the word contains a word that you don't know. So instead of getting a dictionary, you guys just go by a thesaurus. A dictionary, I think thesaurus will tell you if it's an adjective ever. Just get a thesaurus. That's the quickest way to learn what the word means, because they have a thesaurus is just a book of synonyms. So you can have enormous, but it can also be huge. But if you don't understand what huge, well, everyone knows what big is, right? So you're like, oh, okay, it's big. Okay, now I get it. And then every time you have to, it's best now that you got iPhone, you start writing this, record your voice voices, this means that. And just listen to rap music all the time. You know, listen to the definitions, make sentences and things like that. And you'll start to understand it. You tell your friends that, hey, you know what? Education is not about being smart. It's not about anything like that. It's just about expressing an object. And if that's what the grammar is for, the English language. And the mathematics and all the other things, it's just how to create that object. If you want to build it, or if you see the object and you want to understand what it's made of, and you can break it down. It has nothing to do with intelligence and all this stuff. But anyway, I got to go. Hopefully you guys understand what I mean. I'm out. Peace.